All right, all right, all right. We are live, I'm pretty sure, here on the Fantasy Life Show. It's a start sit hour. Ian Hartitz and Chris Allen coming at you, as you will be every single Sunday morning throughout the rest of the season. Mr. Chris, happy week one.
Happy week one to you, sir. And it's not going to be just the start sit hour, man. We're going to get as much information in 56 minutes, 54 minutes, however much time as possible to the good folks out here. But I'm excited for week one, man. We've been talking about this stuff all over the off season. No more theoreticals, no more projections. Let's just hop into the action and get the folks what they need.
Guys, fill up those comments with start sit questions. Again, we're going to start from the top, go down to the bottom, try to answer each and every one along the way. Did want to just briefly touch on a few more national news notes. Unfortunately, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport apparently decided to take the evening and morning off, so we have no clean injury updates from that, we're used to getting around 3 or 4 a.m. We did hear Quinshon Judkins could make his NFL debut in week 2, but otherwise we can kind of worry about that in week 2. Rap Sheet did actually tell us that Xavier Worthy suffered a dislocated shoulder. That sucks for my family and bank account alike. And we also did hear that Travis Hunter, Chris, should be playing a full allotments of snaps. That's good. I mean, we were expecting that. Schefter added this weird follow-up saying it could change on a week-to-week basis. But for now, fully expecting Travis Hunter to be a full-time wide receiver. Good news, if the rain holds off, there is some weather shenanigans going on, guys, that we do want to quickly touch on. The biggest issue is going to be Raiders at the Patriots. Absolute downpour pregame, expecting to still have some moderate rain throughout. Also some lighter rain, but still rain nonetheless for the Steelers-Jets game, Panthers-Jaguars, and maybe even a little bit later in the Titans-Broncos. So, Chris, again, Raiders-Patriots, Steelers-Jets, Panthers-Jags, Titans-Broncos. Any of these other than, I guess, the Raiders-Patriots game that you're really worried about?
Sticks out the most to me is the Jacksonville game because that one has a potential for a heavy downpour. And for folks that haven't checked out any of my weather-related work, go ahead and hop on over to fantasylife.com. I've done a ton in terms of analysis as to weather impacts. And for rain specifically, we want to know how much is going to be falling throughout the 2, 3, 4 hours of a particular game. And for Jacksonville specifically, they're looking at around 0.33 inches per hour, which you don't care about the numbers. I'm just saying that it's going to be a lot for that particular for rainfall. And if there's a potential for weather or for lightning delays, that is in the cards for the Jacksonville game. So let's hope it's something where, yes, they're going to see heavy rainfall, but the teams are actually off the field and they get to move past it. But for right now, that's the one that has my eye the most. So check back in a couple of hours, see if there's any more updates as to if the rain is coming in for Jacksonville. But otherwise, the rest of them, not too concerned.
Then with that, we will go ahead and get to these start sit questions. Again, thank you all for hanging out. From Mr. Greg Butler, 6-point per passing touchdown, Justin Fields or Michael Penix, or he can pick up Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Sam Darnold, or Geno Smith. Thanks for the help. Love the show. We love you, Greg, so thank you very much. I will say, Chris, it was already the Steelers matchup for Fields, and now you add on this rain on top of it, man. Certainly isn't ideal, man. I would still lean, I think, Fields, but the 6-point passing touchdown makes it tough. We always say, once we have the Penixes, the Tuas of the world, when you do get that increase in passing, that is when we pay attention. I lean Fields. I don't feel great about it. What say you, Chris?
Yeah, I still lean Fields just for the rushing potential. My only concern is what's the passing game going to look like, but that's been the case for Fields and the Jets passing offense throughout the entirety of the offseason. We've seen all the beat reports saying that he's been misfiring here and there. Tough to really get on script with guys like Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, those types of guys. So if we're going to say that even if there is going to be some rain, and even if it's going to lean a bit more towards a run-heavy script, that would benefit Fields anyway. So I would say between the two of them, I give the nod to Fields here because Michael Penix, with all of the offensive line injuries, going up against the Bucs, Todd Bowles, we do know that he doesn't have a ton of respect for younger quarterbacks anyway. It could be a blitz-happy game, and while Penix can mitigate some of that pressure, I think Fields has the higher ceiling versus Michael Penix.
Next up, we do have from Palin032, DJ Moore or DeAndre Swift in half PPR. I am checking my handy-dandy rankings over at fantasylife.com. They are in a similar tier of this. I do think in half PPR, I would lean DeAndre Swift. Roshan Johnson's banged up. It sounds like Kyle Monunga is going to play, but he hasn't exactly been overly healthy either. I see the path. Moore's actually performed pretty nice against these Brian Flores Vikings in his last 4 games in Chicago. He's going to probably get some screen work. And hey, from what we've been hearing, he's even getting some running back work. But again, Chris, when it is close, just give me the running back who legit could have 20 touches.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, because if this was full PPR, yeah, give me the potential volume for a guy like DJ Moore in those cases where I know it's going to be a tough outing against the Vikings secondary, but I could see a scenario where DJ Moore plays not just on the outside, but moves into the slot, moves away from some of the tougher coverage for the Vikings, so on and so forth. But in this case, yeah, the injuries to the running backs behind Swift, I think, are notable there to the point where I would want to have a guy that's going to be getting most of those touches. And if Caleb Williams and the rest of the team can start to move the ball as well as we hope that they can with Ben Johnson, then Swift would be the beneficiary for that high end efficiency, or at least the improved efficiency for the entirety of the offense. So yeah, give me Swift in this case.
Bulldog is very excited for the season. Sir Wheat, man, we appreciate you hanging out. Jeremy, morning, boys. Morning, Jeremy. Bulldog does have a question. Ricky Pearsall or Matthew Golden in half PPR? I believe I am just a little bit ahead there with Pearsall. Again, I wish we would know for sure if Jaden Reed was going to be out there. I tend to think that he is probably going to try to tough through it. I'm not sure exactly how well he's going to be playing. But for right now, Chris, I have Pearsall as my wide receiver 29, Matthew Golden as my wide receiver 35. So same tier. And I will say, we've kind of talked about this throughout the just draft process, where once you did kind of hit that wide receiver 18, like you can make an argument all the way into the 30s that those guys really aren't separated by all that much. And we are seeing that with the projections. I believe it was like the wide receiver 18, the wide receiver 35, Chris, literally separated by 1 PPR point. So it is close between these guys. I tend to just have a little bit more confidence in that 49ers passing game. But with Juwan Jennings back and seemingly going to be active in his usual role, it does make things closer. So I'm Pearsall by a hair. How about you, Chris?
I agree with Pearsall, and I think your point there about the Packers wide receiver rotation is really the kicker right there. Because we knew there's going to be one less option for Jordan Love, and we also had some sort of notion as to if they were going to wind up passing more, if that pie for the Packers was going to be a little bit larger in 2025 versus 2024, because they were minus 7% pass rate over expectation last year. It's like almost bottom of the barrel. So for Pearsall, if I'm looking at it from this standpoint that Seahawks secondary, Reek Woolen, Devon Weatherspoon, the guys that play on the outside, I mean, those are going to be the guys that Juwan Jennings is likely going to face, and allow Ricky Pearsall to potentially move into the slot and essentially play that Cooper Kupp-ish type role, because he was getting those Kupp comps when Pearsall was coming out. So if that's the case, I can see a scenario where Pearsall does get some of the easier targets, at least relative to what Juwan Jennings and whomever else they're going to wind up trotting out at wide receiver today. That's where I can see where Pearsall might be the better option for, let's just between those two. I think I lean Pearsall as well.
Continue to roll through all of the Start Sit comments we can get to today here on the Fantasy Life Start Sit Hour. We do invite you guys to check out fantasylife.com, though, where we do have our Xfinity Start Sit tool that, again, basically just does what we're doing now in a few less words, takes our rankings, takes your Start Sit questions, and go ahead and pops out an answer. So shout out to Xfinity for our lovely Start Sit tool. From Matt, can we talk about weather concerns, Jaguars, Panthers especially? Chris, we kind of went over this, but again, Jaguars, Panthers, personally, I'm not making some big drop-offs. Always scary when we got a game in Florida, but tentatively would be willing to kind of keep our same impressions before we had any concern about the weather. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. And especially because it's saying that there are going to be thunderstorms in the area. If they wind up having a lightning delay, then most of those concerns will wind up getting mitigated just by the delay itself. So for right now, I'm not making any changes, but let's give it an hour or two. Maybe everybody go and check out the weather forecast in the area and see if there's still going to be lightning in the area. But for right now, not making any changes.
Montgomery Bell, hashtag free Duke Johnson. You are so freaking right,
That's
my friend.
right.
Chris Olave or Rome Odunze in full PPR. I'm a slight underdog heading in today based on projections. So this is, again, one of these muddled wide receiver 3 range ones, which I get, guys, they are hard. I have Olave wide receiver 36. I have Odunze wide receiver 38. So it's gross. Odunze wasn't very good last year. Let's face it. I mean, he was wide receiver 50, wide receiver 60, I think, even right there with someone like Jalen Coker. So I get the allure for him bouncing back this year, but Chris Olave has proven more than Odunze at the NFL level. I understand the gulf between Spencer Rattler and what we're going to see, hopefully, out of Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. But man, Chris, as much as Caleb did play well against that Vikings defense, I'm not calling this a reasonable or even easy matchup or anything like that. So I do still lean Chris Olave. We did see some good stuff in the preseason with them getting Olave the ball in just easier fashions, not always these, deep shots downfield. So it's nervous because I fully understand we could be sitting here in a few hours going, oh yeah, 2 catches for 18 yards for Olave. Like, why the hell did I decide to start this guy? But again, tough choice, Chris. I lean Olave. What say you?
I also agree with the Olave call there because we've seen not just Olave be able to produce, but he's been able to be efficient, over 2.0 yards per route run in
Yeah.
each of his seasons. And we know the different types of quarterbacks that he's been stuck with. Everybody from Derek Carr now to Spencer Rattler. So I can see where there's some hesitation, especially because of the concussion concerns for Olave. But looking at where Odunze was used last year, we don't know how Ben Johnson is going to try and deploy him last year. I mean, Odunze, his average yards per target just last year was around 13, 14 yards as compared to DJ Moore was around 7 to 8 yards. Keenan Allen, when he was around the team, was also around 8 to 9 yards. So if we can tell ourselves a story where Odunze is going to be used closer to the line of scrimmage, actually getting more layup targets versus deep shots to the same point that you were making earlier, Hartitz, I could then have more confidence starting a guy like Odunze. But this is week one. We don't know, but we do know Olave is going to be the wide receiver one for the Saints. So even with the uncertainty around the quarterback, I lean towards the guy that I know is going to be getting more volume, and that's Chris Olave.
Got some nice agreements going so far. It's good, Chris, because again, we don't have the third tiebreaker yet. Producer Lamarca maybe can be our
Yeah.
tiebreaker as we continue to get
Just show
going.
him like, nah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Ape Fuzzy set hike. Yeah, here we go. Wax to face. Woke up pitching quite the tent this morning. You and me both, brother. Ape Fuzzy Blue 42. Let's see what games have rain. We've kind of talked about that. From Joe Pearsall or Travis Hunter today. Again, I am just Pearsall. I do think not fully concerned about the weather, but just the fact that it is on topic, it is existing in the Jaguars game. It could be enough of a tiebreaker. Again, talking about a difference of 3 to 4 spots. I'm not going to call you crazy, Joe, if you want to go with Travis Hunter, but for
Yeah.
1 week, give me Ricky Bullets. You in agreement, Chris?
Yeah, I agree because here's where the weather element would kind of shift things a bit towards Pearsall. But in the future, let's see, especially with the Schefter bomb, I guess, quote unquote, bomb this morning about Hunter playing more of that full time wide receiver role that we expected anyway. Let's see what that target distribution is going to be between Hunter and BTJ. If we get more of a 1A, 1B type of thing, then yes, Hunter all the way. But for right now, let's lean towards Ricky P.
MH1608, full PPR, Garrett Wilson or Ibuka in the flex. I am leaning on Mecca Ibuka. Again, weather stuff going on with the
Bias.
Jets, Justin Fields. We got to go Ibuka.
Of course, we got to go Ibuka. I mean, we're Ohio State boys right here. We have to go with our guy. But of course, I think the easier way to look at it is who's going to get the higher quality targets. And we just mentioned rain completely out of the picture. How does the quality of targets look for a guy like Garrett Wilson from Justin Fields versus Emeka Ibuka from Baker Mayfield? We do know Baker Mayfield last year, his average depth of target was a little bit below the league average because Liam Cohen was dialing up some easy shots and allowing a lot of his wide receivers to work after the catch. That's why whether it was Chris Godwin when he was healthy or Kate Otten when he was getting some targets here and there, and of course Bucky Irving and the rest of the running backs, those were more of the targets that allowed them to work after the catch. And so we know that Emeka Ibuka, while he can work outside, can also be fairly efficient once he's on the interior. So I'm looking at not just the volume, but also the quality of those targets. And Ibuka has that in spades, in my opinion.
With your full season, I still got some love for Garrett and think that he is, again, the more talented of the two. But right now, even if, again, you weren't fully on the Emeka Ibuka hype train, just hard not to believe he could go off with all these injuries impacting Tampa. Also wants to know Tucker Kraft or Tyler Warren at tight end. This is a close one. I actually have Tucker Kraft. So does Friedman and Waz. That says Dwayne McFarland and Kendall Valenzuela. And our, tier of alleged expert rankers are more so leaning Warren. So again, I get the allure, I guess you could call it that, of Daniel Jones just kind of dumping all these low A-dot throws to someone in Indy. But Chris, I'm still not completely certain it is going to be Tyler Warren. It could be a big Josh Downs game. Michael Pittman tends to work in those areas of the field as well. So again, good problem to have. For me, though, I am one of my kind of bull calls this week is that Tucker Kraft is going to go off. I think we do see LaFleur just go ahead and try to just, I guess, get more of this pass down work, the kind of yak friendly stuff that Jaden Reed usually does to their beast tight end and Tucker Kraft. So again, two great players. I have Kraft tight end 8, Warren tight end 10 this week. What do you say, Chris?
I think Kraft gets the edge here because I know the Daniel Jones of it all really has me somewhat concerned about can he support Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. I noted in my wide receiver cornerbacks matchups column as a sneaky flex. And then, of course, now we're talking about Tyler Warren. Can Daniel Jones really support 3 solid pass catchers in week one? And, of course, the one of them being a rookie. So I think Kraft already showing the connection between him and Jordan Love. I think he gets the nod for week one. But let's hope that Tyler Warren winds up showing out for sure.
Again, Warren's obviously really talented, but what Kraft's done at the NFL level, guys, is also really freaking awesome. I will 100% take the Green Bay offensive environment and quarterback of the equation. Could Tyler Warren be earning an extra 3 or 4 targets per game? Yes. And that's
Yeah.
honestly why we were drafting him ahead of Kraft for most of the offseason. But right now in week one, we don't quite know that yet. I am going to go ahead and lean towards Kraft. I'm triple. Let's go. Let's freaking go, man. Jake Owens, I need 2 out of these 5. London, Devontae, Waddle, T-Mac, and Ridley. Nice team, my friend. I do
Yeah.
think you have it pretty much in order. Drake London for sure, 100%.
Yes.
Chris, I'm going to leave Waddle and Ridley out of this. It's a good problem to have. That's sweet you have those receivers. Devontae Adams versus Cheddar McMillan. What say you?
Yeah, I think your process is right because let's go ahead and take out the guys that we don't want. Calvin Ridley will probably have to see Pat Surtain, so let's get him out of there. Ted McMillan, we already talked about that particular game with the potential weather concerns. Okay, but then Jalen Waddle, the number 2, he could be the 1B right next to Tyreek Hill. I would say I'd take him; he'd be a step back. London, Devontae, and McMillan, those are the guys that could at least be the legitimate 1Bs in their offense. I mean, Adams being the 1B to Puka Nakua. I mean, and then we already talked about like what Drake London can be for Michael Penix. So I think it's like those 3 guys like right there. And I lean towards London and Devontae just again because of the weather concerns potentially for that Jacksonville game going up against the Panthers. I think it's London and Devontae for me. For at least looking at the matchups there, but it's close between Adams and McMillan.
Xfinity Start Sit tool on the screen for you guys right now. Again, invite you to check that out over at fantasylife.com. I am leaning Adams just by a hair. Our consensus ranks guys have Adams as the wide receiver 16, T-Mac as the wide receiver 17. I'm in line with them being that close as well.
Yeah.
So again, I will say overall in the season, yeah, I was drafting T-Mac because again, obviously haven't had the best news. And I can say really bad news about Matthew Stafford's back throughout this offseason, but he's good to go right now. So for now, I am going to go ahead and lean to Devontae Adams. We also have Travis Hunter versus Matthew Golden from Tyler and Standard. Makes things a little bit more interesting. Chris, I think I still
Yeah.
lean Hunter by a tad. Let me see where I, in fact, have him ranked. Travis Hunter, wide receiver 33, and Golden, wide receiver 35. So, again, very close. Not going to call you crazy, but I do think, especially, Chris, given the 100% apparently, offensive news for Travis Hunter, I'm willing to
Right.
go with him.
Yeah, and of course, I'm going to ask right now, not to shame anybody, but just why standard scoring in the year of our Lord 2025? Come on, guys, let's add a little bit of scoring potential here for our guys out there doing work. But no, I agree, Travis Hunter, and just for the potential volume here as compared to Matthew Golden, as we were talking earlier, don't know what that distribution of targets is going to be for the Packers between him, Dobbs, Reed, Kraft, and Josh Jacobs mixing in for a couple of looks here and there as well. So I think Travis Hunter is the guy you got to go with.
Appreciate you guys trying to, people helping people here in the comments. I will say wax to face. He brings up a good point, kind of going back to the Kraft Warren thing about how bad that Dolphins secondary is. You are 100% right, man. Something named Storm Duck is apparently the number 1, cornerback in Miami right now. Kind of
I
on
love it.
brand, last name Duck, I guess. But
Yeah,
okay, as bad as that secondary is, guys, this pass rush, man, I'm not saying they're necessarily the Giants, but they
sick.
do have some dogs, man.
Bradley
Jalen
Chubb.
Phillips, yeah. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, isn't really starting. Matthew Judon is there providing depth right now. They also use a first-round pick on Michigan man, Kenneth Grant in the middle. So again, we've kind of had this debate in fantasy for a long time, coverage versus pass rush. But hey, if you are going to have bad coverage, at least you could have an elite pass rush. Certainly seems like that is what Miami is working with. From Joshua Magaha, what's up, man? Roma Dunze or Calvin Ridley? Not quite sure of the scoring. Again, I don't want to be a broken record, everyone, but you are giving some where I think they are close enough in the same tier. I am leaning Ridley. As Chris mentioned, though, that Pat Surtain 2 shadow does have me wary. That said, there's enough, I would say, of just, I still feel good about Ridley getting 8 to 10 targets in this spot. Roma Dunze, if he gets 4 tomorrow in a run first Bears offense that features DJ Moore and Colson Loveland, I wouldn't be that surprised. So, again, tough enough. I don't think, as much as the Vikings did give up points to wide receivers last year, a lot of that was, also a case of them often being up on the scoreboard. So in this case, when it is close and I don't just, again, feel like one of these guys is super better than the other one or has just a great matchup, I do think Ridley just likely being able to get 3 or 4 extra targets is enough for me. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, because especially for Ridley in particular, Brian Callahan has noted beforehand, and this was last season, trying to get Calvin Ridley in the Jamar Chase type role, where they're not just using him on the outside where he's primarily been for most of his career, but also shifting him into the slot. Now, that didn't happen last year, and we didn't see a ton of that type of moving around the formation, but they also had a number of other issues, Will Levis being probably the chief concern amongst that passing offense. So now with some sense of stability at the quarterback position with Cam Ward under center, they've also worked on their offensive line over the offseason. Let's see if they're able to move Ridley around the formation a bit more and maybe away from Pat Surtain, because you would think that without too many other options, because Ian, who is their wide receiver two as of right now? Is it going to be Tyler Lockett? I really don't know. So if there's any chance of this passing game in order to get some confidence in Cam Ward in his very first start, I would assume they would want to get Ridley involved as early as possible. And that means they have to get him away from Surtain.
Alec Manor, Hive, stand up. We got Van Jefferson showing there. I will say, as much as the shadow stuff is scary, guys, I spent years writing these up every single week over at PFF. And honestly, by the end of it, man, I almost just didn't value it as much because it's so rare to actually get anything over 50, 60% matchups between these guys anyways. And who's to say some weird stuff is going to happen in the snaps in between. So I will say, again, I don't want to see Surtain on Ridley for the entirety of the game. There was only one game last year where he played more than 7 snaps as a slot corner, and that was in that awesome Broncos-Bengals Week 17 game where clearly he was following Jamar Chase all over the field. Maybe Ridley does get it because, to Chris's point, I don't think they're going to be wasting too much time with PS2 on Tyler Lockett or A.O. Manor or these other guys. But again, not a complete given that it's going to be literally Surtain versus Ridley every single snap out there. Enough for me to lean Ridley. From Kyle, Travis Hunter or Jaden Higgins, 1 point PPR. We're pretty clear, Travis Hunter. Yeah, Chris? We don't
easy. Yeah.
We appreciate you, though. Blockbuster manager, Waddle, Bowers, or McBride in non-PPR. We need to sit one. I think I'm sitting Waddle there. Again, non-PPR, so we are in the deep, dark depths of standard scoring here, Chris. But last year, it was like Bowers and McBride as flexes. So that includes running backs even. They were still like flex 32, flex 33 in terms of their scoring. Jalen Waddle, man, I want to be able to see it this year. I don't know why last year was so rough for him, even after Tua got back in the picture. You can say the offensive line and just Tua wanted to get the ball out didn't really help him out. But it's like, all right, are we positive that's going to go back to being a thing in 2025? So Waddle certainly there, as a kind of mid-tier wide receiver 3 and everything like that. But Bowers, McBride, man, again, we could wake up tomorrow morning and be like, yeah, they had double the amount of targets as Waddle. And in non-PPR, man, I do like even Trey McBride's touchdown upside, I would say, over Waddle here. So give me the tight ends, Chris. How about you?
Yeah, because I think we're projecting McBride finally getting into the end zone more frequently in 2025, but we're also having to project volume for Jalen Waddle. He was clearly the wide receiver 2 compared to what Tyreek Hill was in 2024, and that's my concern about what Waddle is going to be coming in 2025. Yes, I get the vibes around Tyreek Hill aren't that great, not a team captain this season. Still dealing with injuries coming in from the preseason as well. I mean, there's the potential for maybe a trade to the Chiefs at some point. We're all following the rumors, but for right now, Waddle is the wide receiver 2. Whereas compared to the target share for both Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, those guys were competing with other wide receiver 1s for targets. I mean, they were around like the 20% target share, both of them just last season. So I don't have to worry about who's going to be getting the volume for the Raiders and the Cardinals. Whereas for the Dolphins, I can see a scenario where, yes, there aren't too many other options behind other than Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane, but that was the case last year. So if there is some concern about what Waddle can be, I mean, we already have the security for Bowers and McBride. I go with the tight ends.
Good morning, beautiful people from Mr. Scampers. Good morning to you, Mr. Scampers. Always appreciate your positive vibes. And reminder, everyone, post Sunday Night Football, Dre McFarland and I will be right back here going live, talking ball, doing our weekly game-by-game review. So feel free to come join us for that if you are so inclined. From Nate Fordeville, do we have sick Kyler Murray, who was added to the injury report with an illness, has no designation, so he's still good to go, but they felt like they needed to, I guess, alert us all that he was throwing up last night or something like that, or Brock Purdy. So where do I have these guys? I believe I'm probably going to have Kyler a little bit ahead because, as we know, Kyler can rip off a 40-yard touchdown run at a moment's notice. I do have Kyler QB8, Brock Purdy QB12. This Saints defense, guys, really could be rough. I know, again, it's the Saints. We all expect them to be horrible. But, man, just like as I was looking even more at the matchups this week, really am expecting big things from James Conner. PFF rated this defensive line 31st in the league going this year. So as much as I was, wondering maybe this could be a trap game, Chris, obviously we're going to have the Cooter Doodle clan going crazy down there in NOLA, making it a rowdy environment, man. I'm just not so sure that these Jimmys and Joes in New Orleans are going to be up to the task here. So Kyler Murray, give me him over Brock Purdy. How about you?
If there was clearer health reports for CMC, if we knew that Jawan Jennings, the calf thing was more about the contract versus him actually being injured, I mean, any of those other things, if we had more firepower, more like easier or better health concerns for any of the 49ers, I would say go ahead, like fire up Brock Purdy, no problems. But also, like we mentioned earlier, the defensive coverage for Seattle, fairly stout. I mean, Reek Woolen, Devon Witherspoon, solid corners. I mean, especially that duo shutting like opposing wide receivers down throughout most of last season. So I'll take the simpler or the easier defensive matchup for Kyler Murray, despite him being sick. I mean, give me a few rushes here and there, touchdown to Trey McBride like we were just talking, and maybe let's get Marvin Harrison some layup touches as well and get him in the end zone too. I think Kyler Murray is probably the better of those two for this week.
My wiener dog Deborah is in agreement. Kyler Murray, JC, boys, let's go week 1. Let's freaking go, JC. I'm pumped too. Let's see, Jeremy, Chris, what are you homebrewing this week?
Nothing this week. I mean, we're back on the grind, baby, but I do have a hazy IPA sitting in the kegerator about like 10 feet that way. So yeah, if you want to come by, man, let's have a drink.
King Lefty 101, 0.5 PPR in the flex spot, Jalen Waddle or Jameson Williams. I'm leaving Jameson Williams. We got the contract extension storyline. He's feeling good about himself. Life is good over there, and especially if he needs the points, Chris. Like, give me the Lions guy in a potential shootout here.
Yeah, and we've seen the path for Jameson Williams turning into the wide receiver 2 that the Lions drafted him to be. I mean, increase in target share, also a decrease in his average depth of target. So moving into that area where he's getting the easier targets. So not necessarily saying he's going to get the layups like the Jamar Chases of the world, but still being able to have some of the easier targets. So I lean towards JMO. It's going to be a tough matchup, especially going against the Packers. And now they've got the Micah Parsons and all of that. So I would still say that JMO for sure for this week.
From Joe, we have Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle, or Ricky Bullets. Half PPR in the flex. This one is getting a little bit closer. Again, we've been team Pearsall over guys like Jalen Waddle, so I'm with him on that. Yeah. I think this might be one of those, Chris, where it's like, what are kind of projections saying about your matchup? 50-50, that's going to put us on the spot even more. But if you are a favorite, I think I'm more willing just to take Tony Pollard's 20 touches, albeit they're going to be a little bit, tough going up against Denver, lowest implied team total of the week. But obviously, again, Jalen Waddle, someone that has a bit more variance in the range of outcomes. So push comes to shove, go ahead and give me Tony Pollard and that volume, I think, over these guys. But yeah, what say you?
I would say this is where I would lean a bit towards either of the wide receivers, because in this case, if we do have a sense of, well, there aren't too many other options for Miami, we can get a few targets here and there for Jalen Waddle. Maybe he doesn't have to play the sacrificial X receiver role, especially since they have Nick Westbrook-Akine coming down from the Titans. He gets some more interior looks. Okay, we already talked about the upside for Ricky P, not having to see any of the outside or perimeter coverage for Seattle. So despite having the touches for Pollard, I'm more worried about the Broncos defensive front, man. I think that defense is probably going to be one of the better rushing defenses in the league. So I'm looking at either of those two wide receivers, either Waddle or Pearsall for me, man.
Fair enough. So again, going to beg you make that choice, Joe. I am team Pollard. Chris is team receiver. I can see it. We got our start sit tool again to help you out. Shout out Xfinity. From Richard Murray. What's up, Dick? We got Bo Nix or Drake May. Again, I've had Bo Nix higher. I could see going with Drake May before we found out that, again, there's just this absolute downpour going on. Will it stop before kickoff? Oh. We will see. So again, I think it was close before, Chris, but come on, let's just go Bo Nix at this point.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix is probably the better of the two. Titans defense is probably an easier pushover than, whatever the Raiders are going to be putting out. And of course, with the Pete Carroll of it all, it could wind up being a wild card defense that could surprise. And also thinking about Drake May as a passer, yes, he was hucking it downfield quite a bit in his rookie season, but the pass catchers, yes, we're hyped about them. We want to see Stephon Diggs come back. We want to see Demario Douglas operating. Everybody likes Hunter Henry as a late-round tight end, but do we have the same certainty that those are going to be the guys that you'd want to pull Drake May into, let's say, even a top 10, top 8, top 6 type of performance for this week? So I would say I'll take the certainty of Bo Nix over the potential for Drake May just in week 1, but I think over the course of the season, May will probably be up there with the rest of those guys.
I'm going to run through some of these that are more of the clean sweep variety with our, again, team of rankers at Fantasy Life. From Javier Ramirez and Mecca Buka or Tedero McMillan full PPR. Again, two good options, but we are consensus 5 for 5. T-Mac in that one. From Derek, this one is a little bit more interesting, Chris. Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence with 6 points per passing touchdown. We do
Okay.
have these guys consensus ranked with 4-point passing touchdowns right next to each other, but that is not what we're dealing with right here, Chris. So again, looking at it, I have Kyler ranked QB8, T-Law QB10. When you add in the 6 points, though, I think I lean T-Law here. How about you?
That's exactly what I was thinking too, and especially with the note about Kyler Murray potentially being sick, I could see a case where, especially in that Panthers-Jags game, more of a shootout, where if I don't see how the Saints put up enough of a fight in order to continue pushing Kyler Murray into a back and forth type of matchup. So T-Law having to keep his foot on the gas throughout the entire game, I can see that being the more likely scenario. So I go with Trevor Lawrence here.
Shout out Wax to Face. JMO, Waddle, or Pollard in the flex half PPR. Based on our previous discussion, Chris, I think we're both Team JMO here.
Yeah, easy. Team JMO out of the three. Yeah.
Team JMO. From Joshua, start 3. So we're sitting one of these. Adunze, Ridley, McLaurin, or DK Metcalf. I lean towards sitting Adunze. Again, it's not completely clear for guys like Ridley and DK, but we are still talking about number 1 wide receivers who could possibly see 3 or 4 more targets. You down to sit Adunze, Chris?
Yeah, because out of that group, I mean, you got Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 1 for his team, McLaurin, wide receiver 1 for his team, DK Metcalf, wide receiver 1 for his team, and then Adunze. One of these things is not like the other, so Adunze's got to go.
Erava Klein, sorry if I messed that up. Nick Chubb or Breece Hall, not quite there yet. Give us Breece Hall 8 days of the week there. Could that change if we see Chubb all of a sudden looking great with a full-time role? Yes, but those are 2 very big ifs. From Sergey, who should I flex in half PPR? Jalen Warren, DeAndre Swift, or Matthew Golden? I do think it is DeAndre Swift here, Chris. I would love to come back and say I was wrong because Jalen Warren got this role, but it is Arthur Smith. We don't know for sure. There's going to be Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell as well. DeAndre Swift for you, Chris?
That's the easy call right there for DeAndre Swift. Yeah, I'm with you. I think especially after Jalen Warren just getting the bag too, they could see more of a split between him and Caleb Johnson. But we're projecting right now. Let's go with what we know. Swift should be getting most of the touches, whereas there's uncertainty in the Packers passing game, uncertainty in the Pittsburgh Steelers running game. So I go with Swift here.
Another Warren question from Mr. JC. In PPR, we need to bench one of the following: Jalen Warren, Travion Henderson, Tedero McMillan, Jamison Williams. I'm sitting Warren for right now. Good set of guys, though.
Yeah, still sitting Warren. Although, I mean, I don't know. Talk me off the ledge of how much the split is going to be between Stevenson and Henderson in week 1. Because is it enough in order to say that Henderson could have the same type of role as Warren in week 1? Just in week 1. That's all I'm saying. Over the course of the season, of course, Henderson should definitely take over that RB1 role for New England. But in week 1, could it just be a 50-50 split? Could Stevenson wind up having the goal line carries because he's the bigger back, he's the veteran? It's entirely possible, at least in my mind, but do you think differently?
No, you're right. They could have very reasonable roles. I will say in Pittsburgh, I'm a little more worried about Kenneth Gainwell and Caleb Bigness, a 3-way committee. Now, that said, unofficial depth chart had my guy, Antonio Gibson, listed ahead of Travion Henderson. So I wouldn't put anything past Josh McDaniels there. Look, I'm not saying the Patriots are all of a sudden this incredible offensive scoring environment, but just looking at the Vegas implied lines right now, let's see, where is Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's only implied to score 20.25 points, at least for the Patriots. We're up there at 23.5. So slightly better game environment for Henderson. I'm a little bit less worried about the touch competition. I would still go ahead and lean Henderson here, particularly in a full PPR. From Joe, should I start Travis Hunter or Deebo Samuel? He also does have Brian Thomas, which I hear you, man. It does make a little bit of a difference. I don't love doubling it up sometimes when possible. So I've gone back and forth, Chris. I had Hunter ranked higher, but Dwayne McFarland is like super high on Deebo this week. I think he has him inside his top 20, making a big stand there. Yeah. I see the path to Deebo. Again, this Giants pass rush is going to be just ferocious out there. How do you stop a good pass rush? You get the ball out quick. You throw screens to your guy like Deebo Samuel. And we also, as a fantasy community, could be underestimating how involved Deebo could potentially be as a running back. So I almost lean Deebo with the Brian Thomas caveat, Chris. How about you?
That's where I'm at. I want
Okay.
Debo for this week, and just because he has BTJ, that's where I would think let's try and diversify a little bit, and also wind up getting into a game scenario where Debo Samuel could have as many touches as Travis Hunter in this particular week. It could be a back and forth scenario between both the Commanders and the Giants. And to your point, with that pass rush being so ferocious from the Giants, could we see a case where Jaden Daniels drops back and has to use Debo Samuel as his outlet? Or does Cliff Kingsbury try and get a little nutty in week one and have Debo Samuel as the rusher out of the backfield instead of old Bill and anybody else that they wind up wanting to toss out, Austin Eckler and all the rest of those folks? So I like Debo Samuel a bit more for week one, just with I would want to tap into the uncertainty of the touch share for the Commanders in this week. And let's see how things shake out for the weeks 12 through 17.
From Jeremy, he's got a boatload of RBs on his bench. Yes, you do, my friend. RJ Harvey,
Yeah.
Jordan Mason, Bill Crosby Merritt, Ollie Gordon, and Brian Robinson Jr. Which of these is going to hit this week? So, again, wish we had a definitive news on Christian McCaffrey. Apparently, everyone's going to make us wait until the late afternoon. That said, Chris, I think RJ Harvey is my favorite one here. He could be surpassed, though, by Brian Robinson Jr. if McCaffrey's out. They both play in the late afternoon window. So, I would lean RJ Harvey right now. And then you have Brian Robinson later. That sound good to you?
Yeah, that's the one. Jordan Mason, he's stuck in the back of my mind pretty much the entirety of the offseason just because of the potential split between him and Aaron Jones. Not the easiest matchup going up against the Bears run defense, but still, if I would say out of that entire group, Harvey is probably number one for me. I would say B Rob shortly after, just without knowing what CMC's outlook is going to be for week one. And then Jordan Mason is probably the third out of that list. But if we get news that CMC is going to be active, I would say it's Harvey and Mason for me.
Yeah, which again is good because you have all those options in the later
Yeah,
two
yeah,
Monday
that's a good
windows.
problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. Really works out that way for us.
Yeah.
From Derek here, needs a potential late sub with CMC questionable. I think CMC is going to play. The way he was talking about, just kind of the reports that no alarm bells are sounding, I think he's going to play. The only person he has available in the late window is Calvin Ridley. Do I bench Calvin Ridley for Josh Downs due to matchups and also to have Ridley available? I'm fine with Ridley. For me, this would be a situation where, yeah, if you wanted to play Downs over Ridley straight up, then I wouldn't call you nuts or anything. But with CMC, man, clearly that is the best play, and I don't think it's nearly a big enough gap. This would need to be, I know he plays earlier, but it'd have to be like a Alec A.O. Manor versus Josh Downs situation. Like, it would have to be really rough for me to go ahead and get off of that. So I think Chris is in agreement here. We're going to lean CMC, and then again, if crisis happens, that sucks, but take Calvin Ridley. Not a big enough advantage for Downs for us to go that way. From Losman, we think J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback for the Vikings, do you think he's going to have a good year now that he's healthy? Probably, man. I mean, again, Justin Jefferson, Addison, even though he's suspended right now, Hawkinson, it's a great offensive environment. They help the offensive line. And just seeing what KOC's done for all these quarterbacks, obviously most recently Darnold, but the Pastronaut, Nick Mullins as well. Tough not to be optimistic about the Vikings. They're over 8.5 win total. One of my favorite bets I've seen this offseason. This is a tough one, though, from Mr. Scampers, Chris. Half PPR, Juwan Jennings at Seattle or David Montgomery in a revenge game special. And that's not a revenge game. Why are you giving me the wrong ones? Dave Montgomery is facing the Packers here this afternoon. So Jennings or D-Mont, Chris, who you got?
I'll go David Montgomery here because as I was talking earlier about the pass coverage for Seattle, I can see where Juwan Jennings winds up running into some of the toughest coverage he's going to face like most of this season, even though he has to face like Seattle twice. But still, having to go up against them in week one with the calf injury, or let's say even if it wasn't a calf injury, it was more about the contract situation. But having to do that, having missed time throughout most of training camp, against that coverage, I would take the touches for David Montgomery, even though he's going to be splitting time with Jahmyr Gibbs, over what could be a slow start for Juwan Jennings in week one.
Potentially unseating D-Mon, just completely taking over. Feels like more wishful thinking than anything to me. End of the day, Dave Montgomery, back-to-back years as a top 16 running back. Let's make sure Jennings is, in fact, going to be out there full-time before getting too far ahead of ourselves. From Troy, Travis Hunter, Jameson Williams. We have been going Jameson Williams in that combo throughout the show, so going to go there. From God's Little Angel, okay, that's cool. Standard scoring. Deontay Thornton, Ollie Gordon are brown out. Here we go. These are the sorts of start sits that get me up in the morning. I think I'm leaning Ollie Gordon, Chris. Again, no Jalen Wright. We're looking at the clear RB2. We don't see the Dolphins give Achane 25 plus carries weekly.
Yeah.
Maybe Braylon Allen is going to be more involved, like we saw. Not exactly the best spot for him, even if that is going to be the case. So I'm more confident in Ollie having that workload. Deontay Thornton's interesting and everything, but man, there's also a chance he just runs wind sprints and gets 2 or 3 targets out here. So for me, Ollie Gordon. How about you?
I think if there was more hype or more press reports throughout the offseason of any of those guys really having a push to take over legitimate work throughout the offseason. Yes, we heard throughout preseason and training camp that these guys were going to be the players that you need to have on your rosters, and beat reports were hot, but legitimately, do we see a scenario where Thornton or Braylon Allen wind up unseating any of the people that are sitting in front of them? That's a tough sell for me. Whereas for Ollie Gordon, we can see where he can pick up some work behind Devon Achane, especially because of the calf injury. And looking at their matchup for this week, yeah, Colts run defense. I mean, not the easiest matchup, but still, a guy like Gordon could bang a couple in between the tackles. So yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Gordon is probably the best out of that bunch.
From big fan Drake May or Trevor Lawrence, we are going Trevor Lawrence, especially again with those bigger weather concerns going on in the Patriots game. From Palin032, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, half PPR flex, we are going with DeAndre Swift. I think someone else had a similar question. From Rudy, drop Drake May for Trevor Lawrence with the weather concerns. I think it's fair. It's not a big enough golf to me where, like, if you just firmly believe in Drake May more the rest of the year, then, you want to go with that. I will say if either of those guys is your quarterback, I don't hate having 2. So, again, I can't see your full roster. I do prefer Trevor Lawrence this week. It's a tough one.
Player that he could drop off of his roster?
Yeah,
that's the only. There's no other bench player that you could potentially drop there. That's tough, bro. That is.
I really wish. Look at your roster again for us, man. If there is a wide receiver 6 or just your 6-star,
there has to be.
Like, I'm cutting Braylon Allen or someone for Trevor Lawrence at that point. I'm cutting Tyler Algier and just dealing with this. So, again, this week, yes, we prefer Trevor Lawrence. If you're able to get your roster in here, maybe we can help you out a little bit more. From Craig, full PPR, Travion Henderson or Zay Flowers. That is a tougher one, man. Obviously, Zay is in a great offensive environment. It is a situation where, the Ravens obviously have so many mouths to feed that we can't always be super encouraged about his week-to-week upside. Let's see. I have Zay as my 50th ranked player in my flex spot over at fantasylife.com. Henderson, where is that dude at? I have Henderson just a little bit higher. So there are the increased weather concerns. Maybe that leads to a little more work for Henderson. So yeah, I'm going to still lean towards Henderson here because at the end of the day, Chris, like their targets could also be equal. I mean, I do think that is in the realm of possibilities. Yes. Lean Henderson. What about you?
I lean Henderson just because, to your point, it could be Mark Andrews getting back into, maybe he has the revenge game narrative after everything that happened between him and the Buffalo Bills just about 6 or 7 months ago. Also looking at Rashad Bateman getting more involved, especially since he got the bag over the offseason. And of course, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, those are the guys that they're going to be looking towards like once they get into the red zone. So Zay Flowers has something of a tougher out in week 1, whereas with Travion Henderson, we can see at least a somewhat more direct path to touches. We had the conversation about Ramondre Stevenson and his potential role for week 1, but if I had to look at how many things have to go right for Zay Flowers to be a productive fantasy player in week 1, there are more things that have to go right for Zay Flowers versus Travion Henderson. So I lean towards Henderson here.
Bulldogs, we have to ding Travis Hunter due to the rain. Now we are not overly adjusting for that game. Do we want to start Hunter over RJ Harvey in half PPR? I think I do lean Hunter, Chris. Again, Harvey, it's a good game environment, but we're worried that the offense is going to soak up a good amount of these. I think the answer is yes, and both these guys are going to be fine. But for right now, I do have Harvey more so as this mid-tier RB3. I'm leaning Hunter. I got him about 10 spots higher in the flex. Not a crazy golf, but I got Hunter. How about you?
Yeah, over the course of the season, we would expect Harvey to be at least in line with where Hunter is going to be ranked on a week-to-week basis for this week. Just based off of the Dobbins news and how much he can be involved right out of the gate, I would say that Hunter has to be the guy that you put ahead of Harvey for right now.
Run through a few of these. Joe says, I'm the man. No, Joe, you are the man. I appreciate you. Ridley or Matthew Golden in the flex. We are leaning just a little bit towards Ridley. Again, thanks to that sweet volume. Tough PS2 matchup aside. Dave wants to know Jameson Williams or Ricky Pearsall. Again, we are team JMO this week. Got the bag and just, again, really feeling good about that potential shootout in that late afternoon window. From Richard Riccardi, Jordan Mason or Travis Etienne in 0.5 PPR. This is a little bit tougher. Man, you were talking up Mason a little bit, Chris. I don't hate that. Man, this is tough. I think I have Mason ranked a little bit higher. ETN
Okay.
has a good matchup. I'm leaning Mason. What about you?
I'm leaning ETN on this one just because
Oh,
for the Panthers specifically, everybody was able to run on Carolina last year. And also, if we can see where ETN, while he wasn't as efficient as a pass catcher in 2024, we had seen flashes of him being somewhat efficient as a receiver in previous years. So if he's also going to get, I would say he should be the starter, at least we're assuming he's going to be the starter for week one. He might get a few targets here and there from Trevor Lawrence. Whereas with Jordan Mason, we're projecting what that's going to look like, that split between them. So I lean a bit more towards ETN just because of the matchup, but I can see where folks would have a little bit more hype around Jordan Mason.
Between me, Chris, and then our 4 other rankers on fantasylife.com, it is 4-2 in favor of ETN. So you win this round, Mr. Allen. Travis, ETN it is. From Uncle Ted, if you need help week 1 in your Taco Home League, then you've already lost. All right, talking a little smack. I like it out here.
Hello.
Okay, boys. From Richie, DJ Moore, Emeka Ibuka, or Jameson Williams in full PPR. I'm Team Ibuka there, Chris. Same page?
Yeah, that's for me. Full PPR, that's where. But if it was half, I think I might lean towards JMO in that case. But I think for full PPR, let's go Ibuka.
Jordan Love or Drake May. I still have May a little bit above just because he could run for 60 yards and a score, but it is certainly a little bit closer. You team May as well, Chris?
Yeah, I'm hoping, though, over the course of the season, we see the Packers get back to their pass-happy ways. I think Matt LaFleur, his offenses have ranked 12th in terms of pass rate over expectation most times over the past 5 or 6 years. That's even going back to Aaron Rodgers. I think the lowest that they've ranked is maybe 17th or 18th. So last year when they were bottom 3 in pass rate over expectation, I think that was more due to Love's injury than anything else. So let's see if they get back to that, but we're still projecting. So I lean more towards May.
D2G, pick 2 in PPR, Swift, Harvey, or Golden. I'm leaning Swift and Golden here, Chris. Definitely Swift, Harvey, and Golden is where it's closer.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Just from a projectable volume standpoint, I think those are the easier 2 to go with here.
Do I keep Garrett Wilson in flex, or do I play Jalen Warren, RJ Harvey, Chris Olave, or Jacoby Myers? Feel like the Jets have a very bad matchup. It's not ideal, I will say, though. I mean, watch that Garrett Wilson film from last year. He had Jalen Ramsey in a freaking, pretzel out there, Chris, we could say. I'm leaning Garrett Wilson still. What say you?
I think still Wilson. We don't know too many other target earners behind him. And while we were talking earlier about the upside for a guy like Chris Olave, even Jacoby Myers, who has been efficient and has been at least decent in terms of earning targets in the past, I think Wilson's probably the better of that entire group.
From Anthony, Golden, Warren, or Swift need to. Again, we are Team Swift.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so close.
I think it's Swift. I think it's Swift.
They need 2. So Golden or Warren?
I think it's Swift and Swift easy. That's the second one. I'm still wrestling over that one. And I'll go with Golden. I'll say Golden here. I'll say Golden.
I'm going with Golden. If you're a decent favorite, 8 to 10% or so, I get just taking the guaranteed volume for Jalen Warren. Swift and Golden, though, our official answer. Yeah. Greg, anyone in the QB 17-22 range you would play over Fields 6 point? I think Trevor Lawrence, if he is there for you, would certainly qualify for that. Again, just really tough to get over the rushing stuff. Otherwise, you can actually make the argument, I would say, that rain impacts someone like Fields less than your normal quarterbacks. Jerry Jeudy or Tony Pollard, flex full PPR. I'm going Jerry Jeudy, Chris. I know that, who day, big day for your Bengals and everything, but as you know better than anyone, your defense isn't exactly known for slowing down opposition. So I think Flacco and company can cook here. Give me Jerry Jeudy. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, with Flacco out there slinging the ball around the field and the Bengals having to catch up to all the receivers that are catching those balls, then yes, I think Jerry Jeudy has to be the one that you pick over a tough matchup for Tony Pollard in week 1. So I'm with you there.
Connor wants to know Olave or Downs and half PPR. Normally he'd be down for Olave easy, but he's saying basically he's projecting to lose by a lot already. I kind of get going with Downs, man, because again, I have Olave projected higher, but I'm buying into what Connor's preaching here in terms of just already down. We could look up and Downs is going to have 10 catches for 100 yards. Like he is the guy that's going to be eating the short areas for Indy. So you with me on Downs?
Yeah, I'm completely with you on Downs. And if folks haven't checked it out already, go check out the wide receiver cornerbacks matchups I put together on Thursday, I believe it was. So he'll be squaring off against Jason Marshall Jr., a 5th-round rookie out of Florida who logged less than 60 snaps out of the slot throughout all of college. and that's who Downs will be facing today. So I would say that the matchup sets up quite well for a guy like Josh Downs. Let's just hope that Daniel Jones is able to stay upright long enough in order to get the ball to him. But for right now, I think Downs is the best matchup.
We are Downs with the sickness. Cam wants to know Ridley, Cup, or Odunze. We are going to be Team Ridley on that one. From Hunter, T-Mac, Judy, or Pollard, 0.5 PPR and 0.5 per first down. I appreciate your service. I'm going T-Mac here, Chris. You with me? Pretty clear?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, even though I'd say Judy, if this was full PPR and half point per first down, ooh, that one's close. That one's close. But I do think T-Mac winds up winning out there. But I think it's close between McMillan and Judy.
Also have a tight end question. Loveland or Zach Ertz? I am checking our ranks right now. And as much as people are a little bit cautious of Loveland, man, this is close. I lean Loveland, Chris. He was still able to get out there 70% routes with the starters in the preseason. That said, our experts are pretty split. So I'm Loveland. How about you?
I'm going Ertz on this one just
Okay.
because, as we were talking earlier about the Giants pass rush, and we were thinking, well, if Debo is also going to be a solid call because we're thinking Jaden Daniels might have to unload the clip a bit faster. Debo Samuel gets the shorter 8-out stuff. That's what Zach Ertz gets. Now, he's not going to create after the catch. What is it? Is that Twitter account still available that asks if Zach Ertz broke a tackle? Is that still active? Because it's probably going to be a bunch of no's during today's game. But I would say from a projectable volume standpoint, I could see where Ertz winds up getting a few more passes thrown his way versus Loveland.
Next one from Dustin. Tracy or Pearsall in the flex, or do I put Tracy at RB, CMC the flex, and then start Pearsall if CMC doesn't end up playing? I think that's the move, man. Because honestly, I prefer Tracy anyway. CMC is going to be ahead of both these guys if he plays, so I think you got it. Tracy RB, CMC flex, and then start Pearsall if CMC doesn't play.
He's already got it figured out.
You there. Yeah, you got it, man. What do you need us for, Dustin?
What do you need us for? Yeah.
Ned Best, Cooper Kupp, or Jacoby Myers. A little more interesting with all that rain, Chris. I lean Jacoby anyway. Sounds like he's, taking that lack of a, trade request and then just, the contract stuff saying, whatever, I'm here to play football. So I lean Jacoby here. Same with you.
Yeah, exactly. Projectable volume standpoint, Myers grades out better. Plus, he can move not just from the outside to the inside as well. So, Kupp, he's playing second fiddle to JSN at this point. So, Jacoby Myers has to be the call here.
Lou, we are going to go with Tony Pollard over Jaylen Warren just for that projected volume. Joseph has no question. Just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you, Joseph. You are the freaking man. Good luck. Happy Fantasy New Year to you as well. From Jerome, Austin Eckler or Jordan Mason in full PPR.
Okay.
You got a thought here? They're close. I think I still have Mason ranked higher, but I see the allure of Eckler.
Yeah, I think I do want to go Jordan Mason there, but I'm biased. I've been on Team Mason pretty much the entirety of the offseason, but I understand if folks still want to try and bank on what Eckler can do in this passing offense with the Commanders. So but I'm still Mason.
Iroquois Animal Clinic, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Myers or Garrett Wilson? Give me Garrett Wilson. Full PPR. From Orlando, start two in PPR. Harrison, Pearsall, Abuka. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Abuka go Buckeyes.
Yep.
CS, Penix, or Tua. I think I'm Penix for the shootout environment likelihood. Same with you?
Yeah, that's where it is. I think I'm with you there. Even though the offensive line injuries are something of a concern, I still think Penix, just ripping it downfield to London and Mooney. I think if we had more concerns about Mooney's shoulder injury from the offseason, then I would probably lean a bit more towards Tua, but I still think it's Penix for week 1.
Joe, I have Ridley just over Golden. James has T-Mac versus Terry McLaurin. That is close. I think we give Terry, the battle of T-Mac show here. I would give Terry still the edge here, Chris, but it is close. How about you?
I still lean towards T-Mac just because he is the wide receiver 1, but we saw Terry McLaurin still have more of those deeper A-dot throws, whereas for T-Mac, we can see him being used closer to the line of scrimmage, and then we saw that usage throughout most of preseason. So, and also the lost time throughout most of training camp for Terry McLaurin. Yes, I know they played a full season together last year. New install, new offense, but I go Ted McMillan versus T-Mac versus Terry McLaurin for week 1.
That is a mouthful. GD, Flowers or Diggs? I am going with Flowers for a week. Diggs was even mentioning the snap count plus the weather. Not ideal. Fade Drake may do the weather. It's not ideal, man. I do have him QB 13, so not a full-on fade. He does run, but not great. Breece Hall or Debo in full PPR, Chris? I think
Ooh.
still
Yeah,
Brees, but we are talking ourselves in the Debo. Okay, we're going with Brees here.
still Brees.
Full PPR, which RB for Denver? Eileen Dobbins in week 1.
Yeah.
RJ Harvey probably over the course of the season. Tedero McMillan for your flex. Trevor. Jamison Williams over Michael Pittman. GD.
Yep.
Rob Phillips, I would say Zay Flowers for you in that one. Sorry, guys, we're wrapping up, so I'm just going to run through as many as I can. I would go Devontae Adams and Tedero McMillan. Virgil, good
Yep.
luck.
For the
On
next
Ryan
one.
Day allegations. What allegations? Being a freaking baller, as long as we can figure out November. Have PPR, Rome, Ford, or Ridley. I think Ridley.
Ford.
Yeah.
Either Ford or Ridley.
Okay. Tracy, Judy, Jalen Warren, Tracy and Judy.
Yep.
Giving Trevor Lawrence the edge over Drake May. Split with Denver RBs. I think it's 55-45. Probably Dobbins right now. Yeah. I would go DJ Moore over Juwan Jennings in PPR right now. I would start Tedero McMillan and Emeka Ibuka.
Yes.
For GT12. Dave, May or Goff? I think
that's still May for me.
Okay. I lean Goff there. It is standard league. So
yeah.
Toss up. Joe, Henderson, or Tracy. I'm big on Tracy this week in full PPR, man. So I'm going to go Tracy there. Virgil, I think we got to you. Pearsall over Adunze. Are we Jalen Warren over ETN, Chris?
I would go ETN in half PPR. I'm still going ETN there.
Fair enough there. He has Lamar, Flowers, Garrett, or Tracy half PPR. I lean Tracy. I would go Flowers over Garrett. Ridley definitely over Josh Palmer and Brenton Strange. Let's not get too carried away. Also Ridley over Adunze.
Yep.
Bo Nix and Drake May. Nah, just keep Bo Nix. You're good there,
hold
man.
them.
Upside after AJ and Hampton went down. I'm so sorry, man. I hear you.
Yeah,
start 2, Pollard, Harvey, Hunter, Ibuka and Pollard and standard probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Last one, Chris. Ridley or Diggs in a standard league? We're going Ridley. We need a better last one than that.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay, here we go. 10-team PPR single flex from Matt. Kenneth Walker versus Ibuka versus Travis Hunter in the flex. Yes, all my Arby's wide receivers are better. I'm in a 10-team league. I can attest to that. It's awesome. I almost lean in full PPR for this week, Ibuka.
Yeah, I was going to say down to either of the wide receivers because we don't know what that split between Walker and Sharps is going to be, or even if there's a potential for a split. So I think it's Ibuka for this week.
And with that, guys, going to wrap up our first of many Fantasy Life start sit hours. Again, we have our rankings updated for you guys at fantasylife.com, and we have the Xfinity start sit tool to help try to, again, put into just, exactly what we've been doing for you guys, any question you might have. So every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, your boy, Chris. Have a great week. It's back. So for Chris, I'm Ian, and thanks again. Until next time, take care, everybody.